Thank you so much for speaking with me. And congratulations on the film. I mean, phenomenal. But
Thank
I
you.
just want to, definitely dive right in. And I want to know, what was your intent in casting yourself and your mother? Were there like traits you're looking for, or personalities? Was there some intent behind that?
Yeah, when it comes to the role of Ellis French, I knew that one, I prefer to work with great actors, period. I don't really like to bring people in that I don't, whose craft I'm not completely obsessed with. So, and then also I wanted it to be an out queer Black actor. I didn't want to have a conversation around my film where, a straight person is being congratulated for stomaching being gay, in the film. I just didn't. I like a lot of those films. I didn't want that to be my film. So Jeremy Pope, before I even had a first draft for this script, Jeremy Pope was at the top of my list of young actors that I would hope would be willing to take on the challenge of this role. Um, and Jeremy's accomplishments, they spoke for themselves. He was double Tony nominated in the same year for two different parts, Ain't Too Proud to Beg and for Choir Boy, which I thought was kind of stunning. And then he's an Emmy nominee for Ryan Murphy's Pose. And often, when we would talk about this film while working, as a because it was really tough shoot, we would have this conversation. We'd be like, what would it have been like for us as teenagers to have a character like Ellis French? How much better off would we have been? And in a world within which one out of two Black gay men are projected to be HIV positive in a lifetime, 8 times more likely to commit suicide, 8 times more likely to be homeless. I just felt that the movies is we all go to the movies to see ourselves, to aspire to be the best version of ourselves. But as a Black queer man, my whole life, I can't think of a lot of movies where we are the hero of the story. And I think there's a real consequence to that in the world where guys like us sometimes don't feel valuable, don't feel like their lives have any purpose or meaning. So I felt like rooting it in Jeremy was a choice to lift up and to inspire the next generation in hopes that seeing a film with someone like them in it, made by someone like them, might inspire them to stick around and join us in the world and stay here with us a little longer. And then as far as Gabrielle Union is concerned, I always start this, with a story. I mean, when I was in the Marines, I was initially stationed in Hawaii to be a filmmaker. And then I got a chance to come to New York and I took it. So when I get to New York, my mom's like, "Oh, you think you bad, huh? You a filmmaker, Why don't you get a camera and come film your little sister's elementary school graduation?" So I did. And I showed up to that graduation and none of her classmates knew she had a brother.
Wow.
None of her teachers knew that my mother had an elder son. And I resolved in that moment to be a filmmaker because you're not going to ignore me. You're not going to erase me. You're going to see me on TV. You're going to see me at the theater, and someone's going to ask you if I belong to you. So casting somebody like Gabrielle Union is a great way to get my mom's attention. You know what I'm saying? I know somebody in her life is going to be like, your son made a movie about you because
Yeah.
Gabrielle Union is in it. Beyond that, I just think that she has a really interesting combinations of qualities as an actress that I found to be useful for this role, particularly her kind of delicate and incandescent beauty, but this rock solid ferocity, this resolve that she has, and her intelligence was really, really something that really drew me to her. And I knew that Inez needed to have, but you needed someone my mother was considered to be one of the most beautiful women at her time in her neighborhood in Jersey City and the Bronx in Brooklyn. So I wanted someone who had that, but also my mother was an orphan from the time that she was 10, and she had me at 16, and she went from being a welfare mom to owning her own home. There's a determination that my mother had as well to use everything she had to get everything she didn't have. And I think Gabby brings that in spades. And my mom also died 3 days after the movie was greenlit. So she was killed, yeah, unfortunately. And Gabby, I just have a lot of gratitude to Gabby. She helped bring my mother back to life for me and offered me some closure my mother unfortunately could not figure out how to do in her lifetime.
Wow, sorry to hear that. And
Thank you.
it kind of goes into my next question. So I
Mm,
know, not gonna say verbatim this movie is about you, your life, but
right.
you have this story, right? But I wanted to know, how was it reliving these moments as you were feeling? Was it like
Yeah.
therapeutic? Was, there's some
Well,
sensitivity?
well, therapy is, cuts both ways. Therapeutic can be maybe after the fact it becomes positive, but while you're going through it, it's pretty intense. Everything that in this movie is 100% autobiographical when it comes to the lead characters' hopes, fears, and primary motivations, even if it's not a situation that I personally have been through. But everything with his mother is from a conversation that I've had with my mom, things that have been said to me, some of the things that I've said back. And that was hard, having to coach. Because the thing that makes it hard is like, yes, hearing it is hard, but you're also directing it. So, okay, let's say this 15 times in a row. And each time, let me think a little bit deeper about what my mother meant when she said it to me. Oh, now I got to talk to Jerry about what it must have felt like for me to hear it. And then once that's done, now we have to come up with the thing that makes it a movie and not just my emotional reaction. That was hard. But some days I was crying, some days I was rageful. Angry tears, sad tears, happy tears, all sorts of tears flowing on this set. But I'm grateful for Gabrielle and Jeremy for making a safe space for my emotions, and I'm just overwhelmed by their performative abilities to transfer those emotions into their distinct performances.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I can imagine.
Yeah.
Um, So, what do you want parents who are raising queer children to take away from this film?
I want parents who are raising queer kids to watch the inspection, and I want them to understand what happens to their kids when they kick them out,
Mm.
and understand that kicking a kid out for being gay unleashes a world of consequences. And I want them to ask themselves, is this really worth it? I think sometimes people think that they're tough loving their kids into being better versions of themselves, and they're not really contemplating or aware of how treacherous it is out in this world for young people who are untethered. And until it's too late, until your kid comes back to you in a casket or something like that. So I would hope that those parents, but ultimately, I made this movie for anybody who has ever felt abandoned, anyone who's ever felt disregarded, anyone who's ever been overlooked. I hope that by the end of the viewing experience, you are reminded that you are enough and that we need you out here in this world, regardless of who it is. This is a non-judgmental film. I'm not, I don't, one of the biggest things for me, I want audiences to understand too, is that forgiveness for men is a source of strength. It is not a sign of weakness. And forgiveness has done a good job of helping me transform my life. And I would hope that, you know, once you understand the message, which is ultimately we are all interconnected, we all have a responsibility to look out for each other. The person to our left and to our right, the person that we are most different from, is still a human being. I think that alone can be transformative, and I hope that it is for those who watch the film.
So, this story, your story, has so many painful moments, but I
Mm.
want to know what is one or the most beautiful part of your story.
I mean, the inspection is it's got its pain, but it also has a lot of joy, a lot of humor in it.
Yeah.
I, for one, think it's hilarious sometimes how different you think you are from someone. Once you get to the details, you start to realize, oh wait, we're really, really the same, And I just find that to be hilarious, particularly in all male spaces. My name is Elegance. Pretty much, any room I've walked into my whole life, everyone's assumed that I'm black and gay, and they're absolutely right. So, sometimes, I unfortunately I didn't get a chance to be on the basketball team and shower with them and do all the things that boys do with each other growing up. And I really felt a consequence of that in my life for sure. That was negative. But when I got to the Marine Corps, you know, I didn't realize that my time in the all male environment of like gay bars and clubs and things like that, that so much of what I learned in those spaces would be relevant in supposedly heterosexual straight spaces. So I think that that's really has always brought me joy to discover. Like the moment you think you're alone, it can be, most times I think it's hilarious when you find out that you're actually not alone, and it's this thing you've been carrying around all this time is actually a thing that's everybody carries around in some version, so that's one thing. And then I guess for me, the best part of boot camp is the camaraderie, like, mind you, like, boot camp, we're not at war yet. So the Iraq thing and all of that is very much conceptual in boot camp. It's not really happening yet. So you get a chance, that the situation I always tell people, boot camp is like summer camp, jail, and a frat all like mixed up into one,
Right, right.
So you end up knowing people in this really intimate and intense way that you don't even realize you crave that type of real connection until you're in the middle of it. And then it's over and you go out into the fleet and you have to start all over again and find new brothers. And it's like, oh man, it's so funny because when you're in boot camp, all you want to do is go home. All you want to do is, I want to go to McDonald's so bad. Please let me go to McDonald's.
Yeah.
And then the moment you get out, you're like, man, I miss boot camp. I miss that every day, So yeah, that was the best part, was the camaraderie. Just my friends are just so different from me, and they're so funny. And I just never talked to a farmer before I joined the Marine Corps. So to hear a farmer's kids' issues
Yeah.
was just really, really joyful to see more of the world and learn more,
Nice, nice. Now, adding a little bit to that, I want to know, in your opinion, how can we destigmatize what is deemed masculinity in society and kind of inside of these institutions like the military?
Well, I really believe that, the inspection is about, it's a pro-troop film. It's not a pro-military or anti-military film. And French, as a lead character, what I love about him most is that he doesn't give up on people. He's insistent upon finding that human connection. And that comes directly from me. I believe that dynamic relationships between individuals invariably will have to change institutions. And that change comes from the ground up and not from the top down. So I think that what needs to happen is what's been happening. We are in a constant battle as a society to become more diverse and more representative of the values that our country was built upon. And I think we need to keep fighting for that democratization of this world. We need to make sure that we are making space for people who are very different from us. And honestly, in the Marine Corps, we have an ethos where there is no such thing as Black Marines or white Marines, only dark green and light green. We have an understanding that we're from very different places and we're going to disagree, but we also have a responsibility to find the middle ground, because we understand that without mutual collaboration, all of us are in danger. And that is the message of the film, right? That we are at a time where things are very, very polarized in our country and in the world. The left is yelling at the right yelling at the left, so on and so forth. We need to be hearing each other across these differences. We need to be forgiving each other when we get things wrong, so that way we can actually move forward together. So yeah, that's what I hope comes out of it.
Perfect, perfect. And my last question for you as we wrap up, what message do you have for members of the LGBTQ community who are currently in the military?
Oh, wow. Well, first of all, thank you for your service. And keep your head up, and congratulations, that you stand with an opportunity to live your best life. And I'm wishing you luck, and I'm wishing you skill and purpose. And I hope that the time that you serve, you can use that time to set up the time that you're not in uniform, but yeah, thank you for your service. And I'm excited to be in a time where trans people can serve, and queer people can serve out loud. And I'm looking forward to seeing how that changes people's lives. It's changed my life, so I'm excited. Thank you so much for the sacrifice y'all are making.
Well, thank you, Elegance, my brother. That was amazing. Thank you so much.
Oh,
This was
thank you.
a great film. All the
Thank you.
accolades, all the accolades. I can't wait.
You.
I can't wait till everybody hears it. How Black Twitter's gonna go. How LGBTQ Twitter's gonna go. It's gonna be great. So I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you so much, Eric. You have a great day.
Thank you. You too.